Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Q1 FY26 series. And in today's video, we will cover a couple of companies that has come out with its result this week, and we will see, is it good, decent, poison, or if it's just shitty, right? And the first company that we will be talking about is called as Acknit Industries. Now, what does this Acknit Industries do? They make this gloves, industrial, imagine if you're working in this manufacturing industries, the kind of gloves that you need to use, you right, for safety purposes, the garments that you need to put up, right, because you're working in a very tough environment conditions. These people make this gloves and garments. Now iska agar aap dekhte ho na, export is a huge contribution. Export is almost 70%, and इसमें भी almost आप बोल सकते हो 30-35% is coming from Europe and the rest is coming from the US. So अभी क्या हो रहा है, as you know, right, with this Trump tariffs and everything, for the last 2 months, especially even in Q4 also, there has been a lot of noise regarding this. And यहाँ पे इसके वजह से इसका lot of orders has been cancelled. Yeah, if not for the orders, the upcoming orders that are there for this financial years, there has been a backlog over there. People are not placing the order because of the uncertainty that is there. इसके वजह से इसका पूरा पूरा बुरा टाइम चल रहा है. Sales is down by 3%, right? And पैट का बारे में बात ही मत करो. So basically यहाँ पे this is that kind of company that has been really affected with the current situations that is ongoing, with the trade wars and everything. Then the second company that we have is called as AkzoNobel India. As you know, these people make paints similar to your Asian Paints, Berger Paints, Indigo Paints. इसका भी हालत उतना ही बुरा है जितना Asian Paints का है. जैसे Asian Paints का sales didn't at all grow, it was flat. Similarly, AkzoNobel का अगर आप देखते हो उससे भी बुरा है. Sales is down by 4%, ठीक है? Which means what? जो volume का है उसका बराबर it's like lot of degrowth has happened in terms of volume. Okay, I won't talk more about Akzo because अगर आप देखते हो the first company is turning poison because of the unfortunately because of the demand situation around it, because of certain things that are beyond its control, versus with AkzoNobel agar aap dekhte ho, a good company that has turned an absolute shit in the last few years. Then we have a very interesting company called as Borana Weaves. Okay, so Borana Weaves jo hai, these people are in the textile space. As you know, for textile companies you would need fabric. Okay, so these people make this unbleached आपका जो सिंथेटिक फैब्रिक आता है ना वो बनाते हैं. बट इसका स्पेशलिटी क्या होता है, लाइक फॉर एवरी ये अनब्लीच सिंथेटिक में भी एक ग्रे कलर का जो फैब्रिक होता है ना वो बनाता है. सो दैट इज ये स्पेशलिटी. पूरा का पूरा ये अनब्लीच्ड सिंथेटिक दैट ग्रे कलर का फैब्रिक जो होता है, दैट इज व्हाट दे मेक. नाउ इफ यू सी, दिस पीपल आर बेस्ड आउट ऑफ गुजरात एंड दे हैव 3 मैन्युफैक्चरिंग प्लांट्स इन गुजरात, सूरत. ओके, आई मीन सॉरी, सूरत, गुजरात. So why they operate in Surat or Gujarat? Because as you know, Surat is that place, is that textile ka hub. वहाँ पे ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा a lot of manufacturing companies are there regarding textile, right? So that is the reason they operate. इसका एक और खासियत बात है, उसका जो क्या बोलते हैं, sales जो आता है, 98% of the sales comes from Gujarat itself. Okay, so what they do is these people make this grey fabric and जो भी वहाँ पे textile companies है, they supplied within Gujarat itself. So उनका supply chain में उतना कुछ cost is not at all there. Okay, so अगर आप यहाँ पे देखते हो in the when they came for IPO, I think they came for IPO almost a year ago. Last May they had come, and यहाँ पे जब IPO में इन्होंने पैसा उठाया था, they told कि जो existing capacity है उनका, right? I think they had around 23, I think almost 23 crore का almost capacity था उनका, somewhere around that range, 23 lakhs I believe. Yeah, and they wanted to increase the capacity by another 50%. So that is why they did the IPO, ठीक है? And they wanted to put up a new manufacturing plant, and doing a fourth manufacturing plant they wanted to put up, and after that they wanted to increase, because of this manufacturing plant the capacity will be increased by 50%. Okay, so after that there has been no news about this company. So all of this data that I'm telling you, मुझे इसको ढूंढना पड़ा DRHP से, what is their business model, what are they using the IPO money for. After that there is no press release. Once the IPO came, no press release, no update on the capex also. मतलब आपने पैसे तो उठा लिया, पर उसको पैसा को क्या किया आपने, मतलब उसको आपने प्लांट में डाला, आपने let's say usually if you see when you look at any company, right, they give you that what you see is usually in the PPT, usually they mention, or in the income statement they mention कि like what has been this proceeds from the IPO that has been there, what has been the status of it, how much you spent, where you spent, they give that transaction का details. यहाँ पे there is no details as such, कि like क्या हो रहा है, कैसे हो रहा है, none of it at all is there. अगर ये plant open हुआ है उसका भी capacity क्या है, what is the utilization over there, nothing. Okay, but यहाँ पे one thing that is there is just sales है. Sales has grown grown by 30%, and this is the second quarter, where you see like Q4 on Q4 also sales grew 30, Q1 on Q1 also sales grew 30, but operating leverage has been a miss because PAT only grew by 20%. So although the numbers are good, it begs for a question ki, like, has there been the plant, maybe the plant is started, maybe because of that, you are seeing this 30% kind of growth, and maybe wahan pe, there is so much, because whenever a plant starts, right, आपका सारा cost is upfront, right, electricity का cost, वो जगह को बनाना, employees को डालना, आपका depreciation तो all time high ही होता है. So maybe because of that इसका क्या बोलते हैं, maybe because of that इसका operating leverage नहीं मिला, but again no way to know about it. इसलिए like I do not know how to classify this company, उसको decent बोलूं, poison बोलूं, क्या बोलूं. Just looking at the numbers, because उसको margins नहीं मिला, because उसको operating leverage मिस हुआ, I would classify it as a decent company, and lack of information we have, we do not know, if this 30% kind of growth can continue or not. The third company that we will do is Butterfly Gandhimathi Appliances. As you know, these people make aapka wo, mixie, grinder and all of it. Very terrible set of numbers. Sales hardly grew by 3%. Margins is margins is same. Last time jo tha wahi tha, around that range. And PAT jo hai, PAT is again up by, PAT is up by 155%, but it is because of, certain exceptional cost and everything. But जब sales ही गिरा हुआ है 3% से उसका I mean sales only grew by 3%. I mean what good of a company are you? So absolute another poison company. Then the last company that we will be doing is Bansal Roofing Products. Okay, so what does Bansal Roofing Products do? As the name it tells, roofing products. Now you might have seen, right, आपको जो, I do not know how many of you would know, वो terrace में एक sheet डालते हो ना, वो silver color का. Yeah, you would see in this construction workers, in that place you will see this ये silver का sheet डालता है, right? This is called as आपको ये sheet material जो है roof में use करते हो. So these people make that. So they do this, either आपका ये जो normal है, this is called as normal sheet products, and then there is something called as colored sheet product. वो जो sheet है उसका different color आता है, like like blue, red and everything. So this contributes almost 50% to the revenue. Okay, so this is the first revenue segment. The second revenue कहाँ से आ रहा है आपका pre-engineered building. Now what is this pre-engineered building? Now you would see, right, before the construction you would put this steel का, that बड़ा structures that is there, right, before the entire आपका जो cement या bricks डालते हो, you put this big steel का tubes. This is called a steel pre-engineered building, जहाँ से आपका जो आपका जो revenue contribution है is 30%. Now a very interesting factor about this Bansal roofing product is the sales grew for the first time, you see, in a very long time. Sales grew by 51%. PAT जो है operating leverage बहुत तगड़ा मिला. PAT went up by 100%. 90 lakhs जो था, now it is 2 crores. 90 lakhs in Q1 versus 2 crores in this time. ठीक है. So अगर आप देखते हो उनका capacities भी है, right? They have a lot of capacity because उनका जो roofing and deck hai, they had done a capacity expansion I think 2 years ago. It is operating only at 40% utilization. Pre-engineering building ka, the capacity utilization is somewhere around 50%. Most, so they have a lot of capacities left, so it's not like they have to do a capex and all. But here is the thing, since they work in this construction side, in this infra related sides, right, here is the thing, unka jo last June tha, which was Q1 of FY25, there was the sales grew by 17%. So I do not know how much of it is this 50% is contributing, is a contribution of this low base effect of last year. The other thing, one thing you'll see very common this result season is either you are having a low base effect, yeah, especially with all this, construction, this infra, this EPC project, most of it, especially if they're getting from government and all, basically operating in this heavy engineering space. We saw that Q1 and Q2, right, and Q3 also to a certain extent, we saw that the order book was getting delayed. आपका जो contractors that are there, they are not placing the order, destocking हो रहा था and everything. And then all of a sudden Q3 Q4 से दमदार growth आया, right? मतलब जो भी Q1 और Q2 में आना चाहे था, Q1 even Q3 I would say to a certain extent, जो भी Q1 Q2 Q3 में आना चाहे था ना, all of that growth came all together at once, opened their gates in Q4 and Q1 of this year. So maybe that is also factor over here कि like इसका 50% का growth हो चुका है. But this is one company that I'm really hoping to catch up with the con call. अभी तक इसका because the result came actually Monday को आया था, ठीक है. Now it is Thursday. Monday को result आया था, and still now the dates for the con call is not out. That investor analyst का meetup का date is not out. I hope they get the dates out really fast and the con call is done, so you get to know कि like भाई तुमने क्या, if you have done something really different in order for you to achieve that 50% kind of sales growth or not. That is something that I'm very interested, because आप देख सकते हो ना, some people who are operating in the same space, like in the housing space आप बोल सकते हो. Although yes, I do understand this green ply and everything, it is not comparable, because एक तो plywood पे काम कर रहा है, यहाँ पर तो steel ये sheet बना रहा है, steel का ये material बना रहा है and everything, right? It is completely different products, completely different environment you're operating in. Environment मतलब आपका raw materials, everything is different, right? So but you're ultimately operating in that home and infra projects only, right? मतलब आपका जो green plan everything is also used in home, and आपके industries में ये भी वही करता है. So when you compare it to that, because green ply you see, right, sales was a crash over there. अगर आप देखते हो the other one, Century Ply something, there is another company. So all this home, like how we saw in Sirca and Godfrey Phillips ka video, that all the paint industries is doing terrible, and Sirca is moving up the ladder. Godfrey Phillips also, all the cigarette industry, VST and ITC is not doing well, versus Godfrey Phillips is posting 30% kind of sales growth. So something is similar, I hope happens in Bansal Roofing product also. Dekhte hain iska. I just really need to catch up with the con call. I hope they do the con call and they don't skip the con call this year. So yeah, that is up with today's video. Kal ka 2 videos will be very interesting, because I will do a video on Zinka Logistics and Oswald Pumps, and we will come and we will do a P2P with Shakti Pumps also, while we're talking about Oswald Pumps. Zinka Logistics, if you guys want to understand the business model, you can go to the logistics sector बोल के एक playlist है in my YouTube, and you will find it over there. Q2 FY25 में मैंने उसका video बनाया था, like in terms of explaining the business model and everything. I've been tracking it now for the last 3 quarters. But जो मैं Q1 of FY26 का जो मैं वीडियो बना रही हूँ, कल का जो वीडियो है, I will need a bit of time, because Zinka का business model है ना, it is a little bit complicated to understand. Okay, so I think I'll have to do a PPT, and आपको remember how I used to explain before, maybe I'll start doing that for Zinka, and yeah, it will be a very fun video. I'm really waiting for that. Actually, that video is just that it's a little bit of a lagard, because I have to do that PPT, right? Usko, I have to, I have it in my head, but like it's very difficult, like what is in my head to convey it to you, because that flow of thought should be there, right? So I'm just still figuring out, how to do that flow of thought, because when I covered it in Q2 of FY25 versus now we are in Q1 of FY26, right? This is the 4th quarter. A lot of things has happened with the business that has changed. A lot of new things are happening in the business in Q1 FY26. So as a result, how to connect the old and the upcoming new thing, that is a little bit of a challenge. For me it is easy, because I've been tracking the business, right? So it's easy for me to understand, but how do I explain it to to someone who's probably watching my video for the first time? That becomes a challenge. So yeah, that's what I'm still figuring out. But let's see. I think I'll be putting up that video tomorrow. Yeah, that's that, guys. And yes, if you guys want to know what stocks are there in my portfolio, right? A lot of what are the stocks that I already have in FY25, but how many of that have completely exited, how many of that I have churned, how many of that how many of that have churned, what is the current portfolio like, why did I churn, everything you'll get to know in the Q1 FY26 workshop. Okay, just a last thing, last company that we will do is Kitex Garments. I completely forgot about this. So as you know, Kitex is a B2B company. So these people what they do is they manufacture especially your children's clothes. Almost 70 to 80% आपका आता है children clothes का manufacturing करके, and you sell it to other brands, and majority of it comes from exports. 80 to 90% यहाँ पे आता है export से, and especially exports to where? Exports to the US. Okay, so यहाँ पे अभी क्या हुआ है, if you look at it, until the last year, until the entire FY25 year, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, we had a guidance, right, कि like ये इतना run rate करेगा. So as a result, we knew what to look forward to every time we saw an income statement. The other thing, that good thing that happened over here is इनका जो capex आने वाला था, in that Telangana region, right, in phase 1, which was supposed to go live in April of 2025, and then we see phase 2 happening in December. All right, but here is the thing, This time it has been a little bit, I mean, obviously it has been, a very terrible set of numbers, I would tell shit set of numbers, because of a couple of reasons. One, I do not know what is wrong with the company, because यहाँ पे exports जो है, if you look at the exports data, what they had for the month of June, for the month of April, May and June, it was really fantastic. Export ka data was really good, right? You get this export ka data from this Nuama. Nuama puts out a, every month they come out with this export ka data, they put out a PDF. So that's how I got to know about it. So export ka data was clear. But what is very shocking is, why is the export ka data not being translated into revenue? The other thing is, unka jo April May, the plant that was supposed to be operationalized, right? Which means what? It didn't get operationalized this bar, because the sales is literally flat, literally flat. So what is, which means what? Because see, Q1 ka month is April, May and June. So which means probably there has been a delay in terms of the plant opening. And the last is the operating leverage. I understand maybe a part of the operating leverage you didn't get, because PAT is down by a whopping 30%. It is because, there's a lot of this one-time cost, that is coming up, with this plant opening. But keeping all of these things aside, when you talk about the numbers, even if you keep this thing aside, you might think, कि like अरे capex हो रहा and everything, so it is a little bit laggard on capex. One thing I'll tell you that I absolutely hated when I looked at the press releases, अभी ये management बात कर रहा है कि like, earlier, this entire this capex that they were doing, right, in that Telangana Andhra region, it was for what? कि like भाई हम export कर रहे, export में इतना demand है and everything they told. Okay, अभी बोल रहा है कि like, we have this brand called as Little Star India, which, we cater to the export market. Now, because of this trade wars and tariff wars, we want to get this brand to India. We will launch this as a brand here in India, and due to this brand, we will do 1,000 crore in revenue in the next 2 to 3 years. इस साल आपने किया 1,000 crore revenue in 1 year. That was the target, right? That was the target for FY25. अभी आप बोल रहे हो कि like आप 1,000 crore करोगे with this brand in the next 2 to 3 years. That is a big red flag. And ये क्यों कर रहा है? To minimize, कि like because अभी उनका dependency है US में इतना, right, exports में. And as you can see, right, Trump ने इतना 25% का tariff, उसके बाद 50% का tariff. Obviously, when you talk about it, Bangladesh का tariff is hardly 20-25%. Vietnam is also lesser than that. So when you have more tariffs, and people would obviously prefer the other countries. And when you talk about Bangladesh and Vietnam and all, उनका जो labor cost is less than that. So obviously it is going to impact the textile industry like anything. Now, until now, what they were telling, like, जो ये plant है, it is for export. We have seen a lot, कि like, lot for export and everything. अभी पूरा का पूरा equation घुमा रहा है बोल के कि like, this entire, the entire thing, the entire plant that we're doing right now, will be for Little Star. We will launch Little Star in India. No mention of anything. So indirectly they're telling कि like, because of all this trade wars and everything, उसका business में, आग लग गया है. It's probably, the targets that they had, of achieving 7,500 crore in revenue, due to this capex, happening and everything. Probably now, because of the situation that is there, it might not happen, right? It might not happen. It could probably be just a dream. So again, terrible set of numbers. We'll have to see how Bella Casa does, because one advantage that Bella Casa has over Kitex is Bella Casa is a pure domestic business, 100% domestic. Unlike Kitex is like 70 to 80% आपका export से आ रहा है. Why? Because Bella Casa caters mostly आपका, the value fashion brands that you have in India, right? Like Studio, V2 Retail, Bazaar Style Retail, V-Mart. They cater to them, like pure domestic business. So let us see how it happens, because until now, if you see, Kitex and Bella Casa were, having neck-to-neck competition, and Kitex was, like above, growing at a bit faster rate compared to Bella Casa, right? And you will see that is why the stock re-rated also. But now it will be a good show, because if Bella Casa can grow this year faster than that of Kitex, it would be very interesting to see. Let's see, because Bella Casa का भी एक plant जो है, it has been operationalized. Let's see if from that plant, some revenue comes. Operating leverage का क्या scene है. But Kitex, absolute shit set of numbers. There is no forgiveness, for the kind of numbers they've posted. But most importantly, I think numbers to छोड़ दो, the change in narrative that has happened right now, with the change in environment, that raises serious cautions with respect to Kitex. Okay, so that's that, guys, about today's video. See you tomorrow. Bye.